Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I got something here to show you all again. This is going to be now called the Sandy Pantyhose Hour. But I thought it was so interesting. After, I did that video with you all, and you all are responding back. I got even more interested in wanting to show you all. I even went out there and checked the video out, and actually it's kind of misleading, but I mean, to you all it's an overview, but to me, I mean, I know, and I noticed that they had missed putting some things in the video that I didn't see. But anyway, okay, so we're going to let this dry. Sorry about that. So let this dry, and let's see what I want to show you all first. Okay, so here was the style of pantyhose we were making. That was the two most popular was the style 717 and 715. Let's see, 717, and I don't see 715, but anyway, I mean, but you can imagine we had control top, not control top, sandal foot, not sandal foot, nude, this, that, this color, that color, this color in control top, this color in not control top. I mean, we had thousands and thousands. I mean, you know, we had extra long on the top, extra long control on the top, no control on the top, sheer, not sheer, thick. Some, I remember one year in the 90s coming out with some with dots on them, and I had to have a pair, and I had to wait on them because they just came out. We were sewing them in the plant. I had to have a pair. Then when it finally came, I didn't want to pay the price because it was so high. And these here actually come from the employee store. And back then, I was trying to look for a date on this. 2003. I paid $3.25. I paid half price in the employee store. And a lot of times there would be something wrong with them, and then you could pay like $1, which, you know, I knew what would be wrong with them, and it did not prevent you from wearing them. It was something that was inconspicuous that you'd never know. So, and women were probably saying, I don't want to buy that. It might have a rip or a tear in it. And no, it's not. But you all did not know that, and we couldn't tell. We couldn't come out and say, oh, well, no, it's not, you know. But I wanted to show you some things, some secrets in these that you probably didn't know. Okay, so, and there was something I meant to tell you all the other day, that you know, when you get the two pair. Let me bring this pair out for an illustration. Okay, when the stockings come to us, this is, you know, knee highs. When they come to us, they're like this. Okay, it's a long stocking, but, you know, this is only a knee high, but it's actually all the way up to your waist. So this is how the stockings came to me before they were put onto the machine. And actually, before I forget it, and I'll show you in this one, that even when they came to me, if you notice in the pair you all get, it doesn't even have a foot shape yet. At this point, when it comes to me, it doesn't even have a foot shape until it goes through the dryer. And like I said, you can watch it on how it's made, pantyhose. And, but anyway, you know, it's pulled down over top of this board, and I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, so imagine this. I've got two things here, and I actually went to the trouble to cut one apart to show you all components of a pair of pantyhose. So, okay, if you buy A, B, C, D, whichever it is, you know, if you bought A, B, or C, D, that you all didn't know, but this little string that's in your pantyhose, this one here happens to be pink, that went into the pair of pantyhose in the knitting department that made this part, okay, that made the length. And 1,000 tiny threads went into this. If you could ever take apart your pantyhose and pull one thread out, it's so minute you can't even, you know, it's like, it's sometimes thinner than your hair. Okay, but getting back to it, it dropped a stitch in there that was pink for AB, CD was black, EF was yellow, which I don't even think I have an EF. I either bought AB or CDs. And, you know, CD's going to be black. And, so anyway, but actually my father, my stepdad, you know, my mother worked there. She met her husband. I'm getting confused. Met her husband there in the late 90s, I think. But anyway, he was the head head mechanic over in the knitting department, you know, making the pair of hose. Just making one pair of hose. So anyway, his department and my mother, she worked on the knitting machines, you know, all those cones have to be loaded onto this, like, knitting tree. And it's a big round tree. I don't know how many cones are on that thing. I worked over there for maybe 3 weeks just so, you know, I had to start teaching. So they wanted me to know everything there was back then about it. So I worked over there at the time. But anyway, okay, so this here string, somewhere, I don't know if it's in the red string, but can you see how it's broken up? It's long, then short, long, then short. Okay, I don't know if it's in that, but something in here, it tells what line, see it has little dots, what line, and I mean by line, you have rows of these knitting machines. It will tell you what line, what machine sewed this pair of pantyhose. All they got to do is pull it out and look at the dots, and it will tell them. It's like a code number. And all they got to do is stretch it out because, you know, after you've worn it, you've probably complained about it, and you probably sent it back to them saying, hey, I don't like this pair of pantyhose. Look how it looks. Well, they're going to go back and say, like, it was a defect here, which I think I put a hole in this trying to cut it open for you all. But they can go back because it's not going to come back with the packaging. You've already probably thrown that packaging away. So when it comes back, they'll say, okay, that was line 6. That was the 18th machine. Must have sewed and made that defect. Say like the gap was too wide or something. Or something. Like the gap was too wide. They know everything by that. And then at one time, they used to have, it used to be a code in here. It used to be like a dot. Let's see if, with one of my pens, it would be like a dot, followed by a dot, 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 followed by another dot. And that would be, it would be like a break in the stitching right here, where, you know, like you have millions of dot, 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 dot. Well, it'll be a break in the dot, And it used to be in this part down here. And it may be in this one, but I never could find it. My stepdad knew how to, you know, he was the head mechanic. He had to know, because if it wasn't dropping it in right here, you know, that little dot right here, it wasn't a black dot, it was a missing dot. It was like a hole. But it was so minute that if you stretch it far enough, you could tell exactly what machine that came off of, what plant. You know, I did work at the Haynes hosiery plant in Winston-Salem, and then I got transferred to the one in Yadkinville, North Carolina, when they went to automation. And I'm trying to think, that was like maybe in the like 88, 89, somewhere in there. Because I remember buying my house in 89, and I had been working there for, you know, a year or so. I can't really remember, but anyway. So another thing I was going to show you all. Okay, so I actually took this pair of pantyhose apart so you all could see how we would sew them. Okay, like I said, it came to me like this. The whole pantyhose, the whole two long socks. Okay, it came to me like that. So I would stick the pair of pantyhose up there on my sewing machine, and as it was sewing, I have to get this one just so y'all can see it. Okay, as it was sewing, I don't know if you all can see that, it would sew one side and then it would cut the other side. So, you know, one big pair of pantyhose like this. So here I am putting it up on the sewing machine, and as it's going down, it's cutting this gap. Let me stick this board in here so you all can see. Okay, so my sewing machine cut down the middle, and I turned here to make that gap. Okay, we all following? So then I had something over here, if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. I had cut out a piece of material. Dadgummit. Hang on, guys. I can't show y'all anything if I don't have that. Let's see, where did I put it? Hang on, guys. Okay, so it fell in the floor. I couldn't see it. Okay, you remember I was telling you about the gusset. And actually, I cut this from a piece of material I had, but actually it's so similar to what a gusset is. Because it was like smooth on one side and not smooth on the other side. And if you all go look in y'all's pantyhose, you all that have a pair of them, that would be the smooth side, and this would be the not smooth side. You see how it dyed differently? It's always going to dye like that. And oh boy, if somebody, you know, there was 180 stockings to a bag. If someone picked up a stack of these 180 gussets and it was correctly like that, and they were picking it up, putting it in there wrong, then all of them were wrong. All of them were wrong, because now you gussets backwards, and then you're going to have it showing white on the outside. Which, you know, I could have gave a flip whether it was like that or not. But, you know, we do have a name brand, just like everybody has their brand. Just like Hilfiger has their brand, and they're not going to tolerate, you know, what you can get, what you can't get. And then furthermore, you know, that's the diamond shape. But if you go get a pair of pantyhose, and I don't know what year, I was looking at some of these old stockings that I had. Like this one here says down here at the bottom, right down here, says 2003. This one here, 1998, and it did say it was assembled in El Salvador. And that's a whole nother long story, which, you know, back in the day, I was actually training about 30 girls to learn how to sew pantyhose in. And because we were coming out with new styles, different styles, longer styles, and if you ever get like a 980 or something that starts with a 9, that it was a very long stocking and very thick stocking. So, anyway, I had trained 30 girls, and of the 30 girls, one of them was from El Salvador, and from Panama, but Panama, but they sent her to El Salvador to train because she could speak Spanish. So anyway, what I was going to tell you too, that if you get a pair of stockings, and like I was telling you, I don't know what year it would have been, but I would say late 90s or maybe something like that. If you get one with a perfectly round gusset, then that was automated. This one here is diamond shaped, so this was hand sewn. This was hand sewn. So these here that were in El Salvador was sewn, put together, assembled in El Salvador and Jamaica. And they had sent me to Jamaica for 9 weeks to train these people to sew what it took us 16 weeks. But, you know, I trained them and their people that was going to be training for 9 weeks. But I would go down there 3 weeks at a time, come home for a week, go back 3 weeks, and come home for a week. And I've done that 3 times in a row. So I lived down there for 9 weeks. So anyway, so getting back to this. So then the stocking, you know, it's sewing down here. Then I picked this gusset up. Let me get back to this one. I picked the gusset up and I stick it right there. And I was going to, I got on gloves, guys, because I know my hands are very, you know, it would pick the stocking to death, which, you know, I couldn't even handle it. But I'm going to show you all. Okay, so this, okay, so I want that, you know, rough side to be out. So then, I'm going to try to show you all. You know, this would be how I would sew it. And then I would have to come down here, and you have to go fast, because if you don't, you're going to be sewing it like you're sewing quilts, and you're not sewing quilts. You got to put out, I don't know, it took me an hour to sew 180 stockings in 1 hour, and that was on a good pair of pantyhose. Now, if it was on those really long ones, it took me about an hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes to sew, and that's depending on if your sewing machine worked. Okay, so then you would come down here, you'd drop it in, and you would sew it around here, which you would probably, well, not probably, you would knock the corner off. as you sew, because you know one side's cutting as the other side is sewing. So I'm going to show you all. So, okay. So then I got half my gusset in. So then when I flip it over, you see how it's the shiny side, not the dull side. Okay. So that's how it's going to look. Like that right there. Okay, so then, for sake of argument, let me get back to this here. So I'm going to pick up another blank, which is not yet sewn on. So then I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to tack it right there, because you did have a little, on these, there was supposed to be like a little tack, indentation right there that would show you where to match it up. Actually, I guess it had to be there because that pink line had to be in a certain spot. So then I would go like this to the sewing machine with these two pair, and then I would come down here and grab the gusset. You couldn't be up here with this. You just had to tack it down. You know, the machine would grab it. And now here I am, you know, sometimes they had a line right here going down the pair of pantyhose. And I had to grab it by this gusset and go up here and move my hand down the pair of pantyhose while this one's holding this pair. You couldn't sit there and go dut, 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 like you're sewing, you know, quilts. You couldn't say, I'm going to go 2 inches and 2 inches and 2 inches. No, that wasn't happening. You had to sew that pair of stockings. My friend and my mother also could go all the way from this side to this side without even stopping. I could go fast, but I couldn't do it without stopping. But, you know, you had to go down here and sew the two together like this, and then you had to turn the other corner, which there should have been a block right here. I can't see it in these, but some of you may see a block. It might be the pair of pantyhose, and then this was the sheer part, but there may have been a block like that, and you had to stay within that block. So if you all have any older pair, you would have seen that. Okay. So then, oh, it's here in my lap. Okay. So then once that's sewed in, here's what that looks like. And I cut one apart just to show you guys. I mean, because I got 4 or 5 pair, and I don't know when I'm going to ever wear them. And two, this color here was, I believe, the signature for the airlines, this navy. And, okay, so you had a gusset like that. So like I said, once that gusset's in there, you're going to pick up your blank. And then you're going to hold this down here. And it's going to sew into, and I'm going to go back around, da-da-da-da-da, all the way back up the other side. And once I get up, let me show you that with these two. Okay, pretend like, okay, let me undo this one so I can really show you what that looked like. Okay, so then this one here would have been the one that was closed up. So now I'm putting it here. And this one's closed up. Let's see, I think this one would be on the bottom. That's what it is. This one, okay, let me turn it around. This one's not quite cut yet, so I would take this one that I've already sewn that gusset in, and I would stick it up here. And I would have to hold it up here at the top on the sewing machine while my hand is down here holding that gusset. like that. Okay. And so all the while, my hand is walking down the stock, and it's gathering it up in my hand. And then once I drop this side on, okay, so now this is sewing these two sides together. Okay, I got two open sides. But now my sewing machine is sewing two sides together. And you had to be, and another thing that was really you had to pay attention to, it's kind of like knitting. You couldn't pull it or not pull it too hard, because, you know, if you pull it too hard, it's going to be way too far down. It was like knitting. You had to have your like little tension thing in your hand motion, and that's what took a long time, 16 weeks to figure out that hand motion, because you've never sat down at a sewing machine. You've never been on an automated machine. So now I come down here and it's sewing this gusset in. Okay, so I have this one that's cut out, that I sewed down and cut it out, and it's coming around here. You know, it's already rounded off now. So it's sewing in the gusset. And then these two are coming around again. And you're coming up the back side. So now your pair of pantyhose is actually flipped inside out. So then okay, for sake of argument, I'm going to turn it over. Okay, so you're coming up this back side. Okay, you done went down that side. You're coming up the back side. And at this time, your pair of pantyhose is inside out. Here's your legs. Okay. So you're coming up this side, so then you stop. You take this label over here that's hanging off, and you're going to slap it on here. But another thing, too, that tells how old your pantyhose are, if you look, the label will have A, B, C, D on it. And then we started just doing the Hanes. But, you know, and plus, the ones that I did and the automated machine did, it was flipped. You know, it would have been a hook. Okay? The label would have came out, I would have bent it over and sewed it in, and it would have been a loop. It would have had a loop. You could have put your finger through it. So, anyway, so then after I sewed that, I had a bag that was over here beside of me, and like I said, there was 180 stockings to a bag, and you really could go, it was piece rate, but, you know, you wanted to make a lot of money, so, you know, I think my friend would do a bag in 45 minutes, whereas I would do a bag in probably an hour, 5 minutes. And like I said, it all depended on how hard it was, and there was always hard styles that nobody wanted to sew. And actually, we would go up there. There would be a big old pile, and there would be like, you know, there would be lines on the floor up there. And they were just laid on the floor. This was back in the 80s. They were laid on the floor, and all these bags would be sitting there just piled up, probably to my waist. Might be 50 bags sitting here, 50 bags sitting here. You know, just all piled up in different rows. And like this one might have said style 980, style 717. And our supervisor would come around and say, Sandy, you know, for that morning, they would say, okay, everybody's going to need to do 2 of these and 1 of these. And that's how that worked. Because, you know, supply and demand. Like I said, 717 and 715 were two of our biggest styles. But everybody hated doing the 980, so it's like some people would slow down doing these two in the morning just so they wouldn't have to do that, knowing it was going to take them all. Some people took all day to do that one 980 bag, and here you are on piece rate. You know you did not want to be slow. And, you know, they even, you know, we all sat like in a row of like 20 people to a row. You know, it was a big factory, 20 people to a row. And then, you know, if they catch you talking all day long, you know, some people could talk and sew at the same time and others couldn't. If they seen you talking too much, you know, they would bust you up. Plus, on the flip side, you had someone coming around. She was a quality checker. And she would come get 12 stockings out of your bag while you're sewing. And she would check for everything. And one of the common mistakes was, okay, this one here's got CD in it. So one of the common mistakes was that people would go up there, grab their bag of stockings, and grab the wrong labels for that pair of stockings. That was the most common mistake. If you read it wrong or you had CD on your mind, you picked up AB labels, guess what? You're going to sit there and you're going to sew the label out. So if you have a pair of pantyhose that has a runoff line right here, you know, you'll see an extra line. It won't be smooth. It'll be one that's shooting out here. You know, be like this, and your little line will be shooting out there. It's because they had to sew in a label and sew out a label, which it cuts as it sews. So then you would lay your label on top of here and run it off. And it would cut this one out and it would sew the new one in. So if yours has that little dingy on it, then that's where it was re-sewed in. You had to go through 180 pairs of stockings and re-sew. And then if you had to do 2 bags and then you did 2 bags wrong, well, then you had 2 bags to go through. And I would see some girls, you had to get it done within that week. If you know, say like you didn't want to do it right then, well, girls would save it for the next day. And what they would do is go through that bag early in the morning. They would come in early. And they would turn every one of these stockings inside out and lay them to the side. So first thing in the morning when the bell rang, all you would have to do is sew, sew, and sew. First thing in the morning, if you turned them all out, because that was half the process, was turning all those inside out. And Lord help us. I remember, you know, my mom used to sit there. She would like pass out from, I know, you know, back in the day we had a nurse's station. My mama would pass out just from sheer trying to stress level, just trying to, you know, get all those back in. I know some people, you know, may have used the wrong thread or something. And then if you done that, then, you know, that's another mistake. And then on top of it all, you know, like I said, they would come around check. They had this panty board. And the panty board was an upright board. I think it looked like this. It was a black fiberglass board. It had like this, and then it had the stand it was on. And this thing here rotated. So then the lady would pull your pair of stockings down over top of this board, which I'll try to show you all. Would pull your stocking down over this board like this. But, you know, keep in mind the board's probably a foot across and 2 feet down. She would pull your board and open your stocking up like this, and that line there better be straight and better be sewn, because a lot of times they would do like that, and guess what? If you mis-sewed it, it's going to split open and make a hole right there. It will make a hole, or either, say, like there was 4 cones on the back of your thing. Well, if one of them ran out of thread and you weren't paying attention and you were talking, well, then it didn't sew in but 3. So now when the lady pulls it open, she can see a big old gap, and she knows exactly what happened. And then she can look at your gusset, and if you mis-sewed it, then it would be a hole in it right here. But that's what I'm saying, that if you ever bought a pair of pantyhose and it said irregular up here, then that's what was wrong with it. It may have had a hole here. It may have not been sewn with 3 threads, not 4. It may have had the wrong label, or it may have had a raveling label. And then too, if you didn't sew but 3 threads, this label is going to be kind of like popping out. So that was another defect, which, you know, when I went to go buy them, you know, irregular, I didn't care, because it was not going to be in the part that was going to be shown. It was something to do with the panty part. And, you know, I didn't care. And a lot of ladies said that they even cut the labels out because it bothered them so much. And another thing, too, on the labels, sometimes people had gotten labels that were not washed, or either they had too much starch in them. And see, this one doesn't. It flexes pretty good, but if you ever gotten a pair of pantyhose with a really stiff label, then it had too much starch, and then that was another defect. You know, you had to go back and change them because you did not feel that, you know, that defected label, which was made off-site. It was not made there at Sara Lee. And so then, you know, that was another defect. But, you know, if it had a hard label in it that was too hard, I just cut the label out. Which, when we had went in a meeting one time, we had ladies that said they went in there and they cut the gusset out before they wore them. Because they said it was too hot to wear with a gusset in them. So, it was just so many things to deal with a pair of stockings. And, you know, like I said, people would complain to us, and we could tell what was wrong. Like, say, like somebody might have weighed 150, and then they tried to buy a pair of AB stockings. And I remember the mechanic coming around one time, you know, when the supervisor came around and was talking to us about how, you know, showing everybody how this pair of stockings split. And, oh, we were upset because we said, well, it wasn't very nice, but the mechanic said, well, somebody's tried to stick a CD butt, but they didn't say butt, in an AB pair of stockings and split it open. And then they tried to blame it on us when it was, you know, their problem. You know, you can't be 200 pounds and wear a pair of AB stockings. That just ain't going to happen. But, there you go, guys. That's just how part of that industry goes. And, you know, let alone what, you know, even after my department, then it had to go to the dyeing process, which, that was another feat in itself. And, I think I may have gotten so far off track, I may have forgotten how this collage goes, guys, but we'll try to work through it. But Lord have mercy. And then, oh my God, when they had sent me to Jamaica. And Jamaicans are very, you know, they have their culture and we have ours. And, you know, their culture is very laid back. And, you know, they, trying Trying to figure out my collage over here. Like I said, their culture is very laid back, and, you know, we're trying to tell them, we're sitting here trying to tell them, hey, could you speed it up? And that more than likely wasn't going to happen. I mean, you got to understand their culture. They're laid back, no problem. You know, I can understand they're on island time. That's how they are. And you know, and no, we're not. We're like, no, get it done. Let's do 5 other jobs. But you know, and 2, I think my phone's getting ready to die, guys. I got to put it on the charger. But anyway,